YouTube family, Carl Baldassarre back with another classic rock riff review. And today I'm going to feature some great riffs by Led Zeppelin because I want to demonstrate my new pickups in my mystery Les Paul, which I'll do a separate episode on what the mystery is behind the guitar, because that's the most frequent question I get from everybody. But I've got some new pickups from Brian Williams. I'm going to talk about them as we go through it, but I've picked out some great riffs by Led Zeppelin, which I think will demonstrate the pickups really well. And I'm really lucky to have with me my good friend, great drummer, and tremendous artist, Nick DiVirgilio. Nick, thank you so much for coming.
This is a blast, a total pleasure. Thank you for having me, Carl.
Nick is just such an amazing drummer, and we've been together now probably 5 years on various music projects.
Yep.
And I met him in 2017 when he was starting to work on his solo album called Invisible. And I was there when you were tracking one of the tracks. I think it was Where's the Passion?
Yeah, and I don't know if I knew that it was going to be a record. I just had that song at that particular time, and then it became a whole record soon after that. But yeah, you were there for the beginnings of all
yeah,
that.
And I came away so moved by that song and the themes in the song that eventually I was very lucky several years later when Nick asked me to write a classical prelude for the intro of the album. And it was a lot of fun going through the themes of that song, but the other themes, as you start to write the rest of the album, I started picking up some of the themes. So it was really an honor to be able to do that for you.
And YouTube family, there is a video if you want to go through how Carl came up with that particular piece.
There is.
We'll leave a link in the description. There's a YouTube video I made. It's been around for a little while now, but if you want to check it out, to go through Carl's mind of how he, because it's really beautiful how he went through the different themes, and we talked through each one, and how you came about, and then how the prelude came about. So it's a really cool thing. So check that out along with all of Carl's other stuff too, because it's all great.
And I'll give a little plug for an album I'm releasing, a solo album called Grand Boulevard, which comes out on April 28th. And Nick not only played on that album with me, but we've got another 30 or 40 tracks in the can that we haven't released yet. So I've been working with Nick a long time, not the least of which is a project that we have, which is really cool, called The Soul of Zeppelin. So Nick and Jacob Dupree, myself, and my good buddy Al Rollick formed The Soul of Zeppelin. So it's got a twist to it. It's really, really cool. But apart from that, I think it was perfect to have Nick in town for us to actually review some Led Zeppelin riffs, so I can show you these really cool pickups from Brian Williams, and then we can kind of jam together, drums and guitar. What do you say, man?
It's great, and the weather outside is crazy. There's thunder and lightning, and it's going off outside, and we're inside playing rock and roll, and it's a perfect little marriage of fun right now.
It really is.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into this episode with some great riffs by Led Zeppelin. Yeah, man. Good times, bad times. The first song on the first album by Led Zeppelin. And you really got to hand it to John Bonham, by the way, that he was 20 years old laying down that kick drum pattern.
Such a great drum groove. What a great feeling. The power behind. It's really cool to study that drum groove along with everything else, of course, too. But yeah, it's really on fire.
Yeah, January of 1969 when this came out. Rumor has it that all the musicians in the world were hovering around speakers and saying, "Did you hear that guy's foot? He's doing it with just one kick drum pedal, right?"
Yeah. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3. But in time, with vibe and feel and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and it was a really cool, what a great little technique that was.
Yeah. And although Jimmy Page recorded that song originally on a Telecaster, I'm actually using my Les Paul, because he did eventually in 1970 switch to the Les Paul and played it live with that sound. And again, it takes me back to kind of these pickups that I'm using. And let me give you a little insight into these pickups from Brian Williams. So Brian Williams, who is a New Zealander, he now lives in Australia, but back in 1972, his best friend was Clive Coulson. And Clive Coulson was the road manager for Led Zeppelin at the time, and he also doubled as Jimmy Page's guitar tech. So Clive had the chance to actually handle Jimmy's guitars actually take the pickups out. And he and Clive were able to get all the metrics on the pickups, including the size of the magnets, the windings, and they noticed one particular thing that's quite exciting to share with you. And that is, one of the keys to Jimmy's sound is that the pickups on any guitar normally are set such that the hot pickup is in the bridge position and the smooth, quieter pickup is in the neck position. It's opposite day in Jimmy Page world. Those were flipped. So you have the low output pickup in the hot position and the high output pickup in the low position, or yes, in the soft position. That really kind of turns the sound on its ear, and that probably more than anything is really the secret to Jimmy Page's sound. So for riff number 2, we've got the Led Zeppelin's 4th album, which was released on November of 1971. So many great songs in this album. This really made them, probably at the end of the day, the mighty Zepp. And the second track is Rock and Roll. This song started out as just a jam, and rumor has it that they did it in 15 minutes. So we'll go back and show you what the source was of the drum pattern, but we'll play what John Bonham did, and I'll come in with Jimmy Page's guitar tone. So he was always running in the middle position when he opened the concert. And it really is this sort of dance that you have to do with balancing the two pickups' volume outputs. So what I'm going to do for this one is have full on, the bridge position full on. The neck position, I'll put it around 7 or 8. I think that kind of gives you sort of that little kind of woolliness that's in the guitar sound. Let's try it. So there you have the great rock and roll riff with the drum intro. And Nick, could you solve a mystery for me? Because I really don't know how to count it. I just kind of come in at the end just based on feel, because I come in on the one and. But where the hell does this riff start?
The riff starts, well, when you listen to the record, the very first beat, you just naturally think that that is the downbeat. That's beat 1.
Right.
But the riff starts on the and of 3. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. So I'll play it very quietly for you here. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2,
Okay.
and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and... Right,
Yeah,
so
okay.
it's it's all straight. It's in 4/4 time. It's all that. It's just where it starts throws so many drummers, just music listeners
Everybody.
in general off. All you have to know is that if you start on the and of 3, you're good to go. There is a cue, a real definite cue in that opening drum thing that will lead you into the downbeat when the guitar comes in. It's at the very end. He does 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Ba-da-da-da-bum. 1, 2, 3, 4 in, right?
Right,
So if
yeah.
you hear that, even if you don't know where the thing is even started, just concentrate on that 1, 2, 3, 4 in, 1, 2, 3, 4 in.
Yeah.
You should be able to, no matter who you are. I mean, if you're in a band and you're playing this thing, if you hear that and the drummer starts in the right spot, don't have to count along. Just kind of keep the beat going in your head, and then once you hear that ba-da-da-da, right, you're in the downbeat right after that.
Right.
Hopefully that makes more sense. If you're not worried about, if you don't want to know exactly where it starts, just listen for that last 1, 2, 3, 4, bomb.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you
yeah.
should be good to go.
Right, yeah. Usually I catch it just at that point.
Right.
My plan is usually starts with Our Father, who art in heaven, and then I go ta-ta-ta-ta. Right, no, that's really cool. But my favorite part of the guitar is not the main riff that we go around from A to D to A and back to E.
Right.
It's what happens, that little tag turn that he does at the end on the guitar. It's really, really cool. So if we take like the last riff, so it's a... I love with a capital L, that lick. That is such a cool little country lick, man.
Well, because you know what's cool is too is you're going from the E to the F sharp.
Yes.
And that F sharp really, if you
It's
go
like-
to the G, it totally changes the whole thing.
Exactly.
Play it when you go. What if you did it where you just? it totally
No,
changes the vibe, right?
Yeah.
So playing with the F sharp instead of the G really gives it that special sauce.
Yeah, man.
That is unique, right?
Let's do it one more time. Let's do the drum intro one more time. I'll play the riff and really focus on that little turn at the end. It's super cool. Do it again.
Ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Oh man, that never gets old. I love that lick on the end.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
May I mention, even though this is a guitar video,
Yeah,
can I mention
yeah.
one more thing about this great
Please.
drum track
Please.
that adds to the whole spice of this thing that goes with the guitar part? He's playing all the 16th notes in his snare hand at the same time. So he's not just going, he's going. Which is really cool because you're playing all 16th notes as well
Yeah.
in your guitar part. So they're all meshing together and just adding the snare going through as the kind of underbelly of the sound.
Yeah.
It just percolates underneath.
Yeah.
And then the 2 and 4 backbeats are there and it's just a really great
Yeah.
vibe all together, the melding together of all the sounds.
The other little hiccup that's happening is that the guitar actually comes in on the and of 1. It doesn't come in on the downbeat.
Right, but you have like the bass guitar
1, 2,
probably
3,
hits right.
4, dum, ah, ee, ah, ee, ah, ah.
Right,
You know, that's where
right.
the guitar is. So it's all a little messed up, but it's really cool. And the drum pattern that John Bonham was kind of jamming on when they recorded the song actually was influenced by Little Richard's song, Keep a Knockin'. And the great drummer Charles Connor actually came up with the original sort of pattern that John Bonham was thinking about. And I thought it'd really be cool if Nick would actually try to play that pattern, the Little Richard pattern, which is a little faster, but you can kind of hear the influence. I love going back in history and seeing where musicians and composers are influenced by things. So this riff on the drums by Charles Connor was the inspiring drum pattern that John Bonham was using. So let's take a look at that.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Wait a minute.
So it's in 4, and then there's a bar of 3 right before the band kicks in.
Okay.
So I don't know if that was intentional, a mistake, a tape edit, who knows? But it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So it's definitely a little bit funky, but
Yeah.
that's what's on the record.
Okay.
So
So-
how, was it intentional on purpose, or was it just a happy accident?
But
I'm not really
somebody
sure.
took a quarter note. Definitely go listen to the track by Little Richard because he was truly the godfather of rock
it's
and roll, man.
fully
He
rocking,
was
yeah.
amazing,
Yeah.
and this vocal comes ripping in on that downbeat. But what we're going to try and do is have Nick play that version of it, and then I'm going to bolt on rock and roll's guitar riff on top. We'll see what happens.
And I'll say 1, 2, 3
Yeah.
right before the downbeat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So hopefully this works.
Okay.
Fingers crossed.
Here we go.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes. Oh my God. Little Richard and Led Zeppelin just had a baby. It's amazing.
A little bit faster than rock and roll. Just a
Yeah.
little bit faster than rock and roll.
Okay, for our third riff, we're going to go to Led Zeppelin's 6th album. It's Physical Graffiti. It was released in February of 1975. This song happens to be both Nick DiVirgilio and my favorite Led Zeppelin song on that album. It's called The Rover. And I'm really looking forward to trying it with this guitar and these pickups because I definitely can hear the tone of those pickups on this guitar as they're running through a phaser. So it's really, really cool to actually finally be able to get that tone and that sound. And the riff itself is really actually quite difficult to do because of the subtleties of the bending. And I'll kind of demonstrate it and we'll talk a little bit about it after. But let's take a look at this great riff intro for the Rover. I've been to London. I've seen Seven Wonders.
That's right. Unnoticed trip is just too far.
That is such a fantastic song. Simple in so many respects in terms of the drum and the bass is just pedaling a low E,
He's pedaling
right?
the whole time.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so sexy and slurpy because of the way Page is playing it. Now, there's actually no video of him playing it. I haven't found it. If anybody knows and has seen a video of Jimmy Page playing this song, please send it to me because I'd love to exactly see how he's bending these notes, because actually the emotion of the song is in all of these bends, right? So, I mean, it's a bend-a-palooza, okay? So we've got... right?
You're bending, and only a couple notes are bent up. Most of them, like the way you're playing it, are all bent pulling down.
Right, and so this is why I'd love to see a video of how he's doing that, because it does affect the sound and the tone and the character of it. This is the best that I can determine, plus there's a little bit of sort of mechanics that are involved. The choices that I'm making in terms of which way I'm bending it really just has to do with sort of the finger logistics, so I don't trip over my fingering.
Sure, yeah.
So I'm generally on the beginning, starting down, and then for the bend up on the B flat, and another bend down on the F sharp.
Yeah.
And the other thing is just how long he's holding the bends. These little micro durations are where the feel is for this thing. So check this out. So he's going.
That one's pulled it's a little longer than the others.
Yeah. In classical music, they call that a rubato, which is Latin for robbing. He's robbing time from one beat and kind of sharing it with another, so you get this feel. And actually, what's really difficult to do is to get this C-sharp bend to D. To get that to speak is actually not very easy because he's not going exactly to D, so it's sort of sitting in the middle there, right? Mm-hmm. And it's all that microtonality, all those sort of bend durations, and the way he's bending affects the tone, whether it's up or down. I think I'm pretty darn close,
I mean, come on, man. It sounds great what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it sounds really authentic, which is the sound of the guitar coming through the amp in the room here.
Yeah.
And how you're bending the notes sounds very authentic to my ear. And I've been listening to this song since I was 6 years old.
Yeah, well, that's really great to hear. Yeah. But again, I'd love to see it. The other little piece that's really fussy and took me a long time to figure out how to maybe replicate it again, I'd love to see how he's doing this. And that's that little phrase that he does, a little button that he puts into the verse riff, which is... I love that, and Bonham actually kind of shadows him on that.
It's so
they come up short, that... they slam down on one. Yeah. It's so cool. I've had a lot of requests for playing the Rover. I hope this really helps you guys satisfy your jonesing for the song. It's such a great song and so fun to play with Nick DiVirgilio. Thank you, man.
My pleasure.
All right, let's move on to riff number 4. Okay, for riff number 4, we're going to Led Zeppelin 2, the opening track, the iconic song Whole Lotta Love, which was a song that was inspired by Willie Dixon and his You Need Love. And by the way, I actually had a chance to see Willie Dixon in concert when I was a young kid.
Okay.
Like when at 18, first time I legal to go to a bar, I actually was sitting front row, and it was like something you never forget. Apart from that, we've got the song Whole Lotta Love, and this riff on this guitar with these pickups, you really do hear the effect of having kind of the reverse pickup positions. So I'm going to play you the riff, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to bolt on a little bit of that sort of looping riff that they did live at Neverworth. So we're going to play the standard Whole Lotta Love riff, and then we're just going to go right into that crazy little looping thing, okay?
Yeah.
All right, let's give it a try. Here we go. Yeah, that's so great, man. I love playing this riff because there's this little trick in it that if you want to get it sounding exactly like the record, you have to do this one thing. Are you ready? Okay. It's on the lick when he's hitting the D note. He's not just playing one note, not doing that. He's actually upstroking and he's hitting the open D first, and then he's fretting the D on the 5th fret on the A string, playing them together with a little bit of a spread. You can hear that detuning.
It sounds out of tune, but all it makes me think of is how is he doing that? Not that it sounds out of tune. It sounds incredibly cool. How does he make that happen? I've been thinking about that ever since I first heard that tune.
Yeah.
It's a very cool trick, and just seeing how you're doing it right now.
Yeah.
It's just what a cool sound it is, because it just adds that little bit of that special sauce.
Yeah, yeah.
If you just played the single note without that extra string, it wouldn't be nearly as interesting.
Yeah, Nick and I were having this conversation about Jimmy Page vis-a-vis the other Yardbird guitarists, Clapton and Beck, and just how they all went in different lanes. And Page, for me, was actually the artist of the three, where, you know, Clapton was the blues guy, stayed there, you know, Beck went on into this crazy guitar virtuoso. And Page, as great of a guitar player he is, he really was sort of a visual painter. And this sort of technique is something that could be classified as maybe wrong, but it is. It's like that broad brush stroke of an impressionist. It's like Monet, you know? We've got these brutal sort of strokes, you know, and you get it going, you know?
But it's the attitude.
Yeah.
That little subtle thing there gives the song, especially the intro of the song, because this is the very beginning thing you hear, the first thing you hear.
Yeah.
It starts the song out with such great attitude. It sucks you in and makes you want to hear more.
Yeah. I mean, it's the opening track on Led Zeppelin 2. It's just a guitar. And when I first heard it, I was just a kid, and this is so big. It sounds so big, you know? It sounds like there's like two guitars there. I didn't know it at the time, but it was that thing that was making it, had this big sonic footprint that just would bowl you over. And then Bonham comes in, and then, you know, Plant's voice. It's a hell of a way to open an album.
What a great combination.
Yeah?
Awesome stuff.
The other cool thing about getting that lick right, apart from that little parlor trick that they have there, is really looking at the riff in sort of two phrases. And the first phrase, I think he's coming on the end of three. 1, 2, 3. Ba-da, ba-da, dum. So, but the key to get it right is landing on one on the E power chords, right? Right on one, getting it right. So, you know, getting that downbeat right there is so critical.
Hitting the one is so important in all kinds of styles of music. Another thing that I'm noticing about this riff too is that the chunking you're doing after you do the ba da 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 ba, you keep that dangle dungle dangle dungle dangle dungle dangle dungle. That to me is super important.
Yeah.
To tie the rest of the riff together.
Exactly.
It really is the propulsion going forward.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the engine of the whole riff. Yeah.
So just an amazing riff to play. It sounds great with these pickups, and it's amazing to be able to play it with Nick, man. It's just really, really powerful. We were doing this live with the Soul of Zeppelin. It always was, you know, just take the house down when we would do it. You know, it's just so good. Yeah. So there you have, Whole Lot of Love. All right, for riff number 5, we're going to do the introduction to the instrumental song on Led Zeppelin 2, the drum solo song, called Pat's Delight.
What?
I'm sorry. They retitled it. It became Moby Dick, but actually it was called
I like that title better.
Pat's Delight.
Why was it called Pat's Delight?
Because John Bonham's wife's name is Pat.
Yes.
And he wanted to dedicate a drum solo, like you would probably dedicate a drum solo to Tiffany.
Maybe, but okay. No.
Okay.
I'm not sure she would want me to dedicate it.
This is his musical offering to his wife.
That's awesome.
Pat's Delight.
I had no idea.
And the bands thought, no, I don't think so.
Right.
Maybe we'll call it Moby Dick.
If this is what you heard Robert Plant do on Song Remains the Same, go, ladies and gentlemen, John Bonham, Pat's Delight. It doesn't have the same thing as
Not quite. Moby
Dick, John Bonham, Moby Dick. Right, yeah.
Little different.
Little different, right.
One fan would be happy with that announcement. Pat would be happy.
Okay.
But anyway, so we're going to play you the iconic guitar drum pairing. Really, this is a great guitar song as well.
Oh, totally.
With a
yeah.
drum solo inserted in the middle of it. But we're going to play you the introduction, and I'm going to go to drop D, which is how this guitar is tuned for this song. And I should also give credit to the inspirational song that this was written from. The lick was really coming from a guy named Bobby Parker, who had a great hit in 1961, a really great guitar player, and his song was called Watch Your Step. So you should go check out that song, and you'll hear the similarities between the riff on Moby Dick and Watch Your Step. It's really good history to go back and look at that. So we're going to give you the opening riff to Moby Dick.
Can I mention one thing before we start?
Yeah.
This also is one of the great John Bonham's beginnings of songs. Just this snare drum riff at the top of this tune is iconic John Bonham.
Yeah.
It oozes Led Zeppelin, why they were such a great band, because they all had specialties in their playing.
Yeah.
And just this little thing alone is just so awesome.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I mean, just tell me, show me. We'll play it together eventually.
That's not very difficult in itself, right? But just the attitude. Oh,
yeah.
It's so energetic and groovy and just deep.
Yeah.
In a simple rhythm. The depth of it all is so cool. And then when we break into the riff with the drums and the guitar, man, it's just a great thing.
Yeah.
So
I love how actually on that drum pattern at the end, it's just accelerating.
Jumps us right into where the guitar comes. Right.
Very exciting. Okay.
Let's do it. So great. Can I add one little thing we're missing because we don't have a bass player here?
Yeah.
But in the little solo sections, right? You do 4 of the things.
Yeah.
You get through on the 4th one.
Yeah.
Just to show how cool this band was. At the very end of that riff, John Paul Jones plays boom, boom, boom. He leads the charge back in, and it's bass guitar and kick drum underneath the very end of that riff to get us back into the very end of the whole thing. So it's just one of those little tiny little ear candy things that they did as a band that was really cool.
Yeah, yeah. Play that section.
Well,
show me the kick drum. What's going on
I'll
there?
show you.
Okay.
Let's do the last 2 riffs, the last 2 solo-y bits.
Right.
And then I'll point it out.
Gotcha. Okay,
so
right.
start with the...
Okay, all right.
2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, it doesn't have the same effect with just the 2 of us here.
Yeah.
Because the bass is going, go, boom, boom, boom. It's just again, it's an ear candy, just a little nuance that brings the whole thing together.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, it's a really cool
My
little
mind is
effect.
actually playing those licks. I'm not really thinking about it.
Exactly.
But you're so right, man. That really sets it up.
Yeah.
There you have it, Moby Dick. I want to thank Nick DiVirgilio for coming to town. Thank you so much, buddy.
My pleasure, man.
Please check out his channel because we actually just shot an episode for him with 5 great rock songs that have intros. What's the title of your episode?
The title of my video is, drum roll please, 5 great drum-only intros in rock music. Now, there's a lot more than just 5, but we picked 5 for this episode that we did together.
Yeah, yeah. So while he was in town, I was going to do this Led Zeppelin episode. I thought I would just take Nick and throw him into this episode. Really, really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun jamming these songs with you, man.
And I am a huge Led Zeppelin fan.
I know.
I've been listening to Zeppelin and learning from Bonham and the whole band for such a long time, since I was literally 5, 6 years old. So all of this music has a deep meaning to me, just as it does to you.
Yeah. And your channel name is?
Nick DiVirgilio. That's my name. Nick
That's
DiVirgilio
easy.
at YouTube, Instagram. Just Google Nick DiVirgilio. You'll find all the spots. But specifically my YouTube channel is my name, Nick DiVirgilio.
Great. So for Nick DiVirgilio, I'm Carl Baldassarre. We really appreciate you watching. Please remember to subscribe, because most of my viewers aren't subscribers. So it's super helpful for us and our algorithms to get subscribers. Get the likes. Don't forget to share. If you want to hit the super thanks button, we really do appreciate that. And we will see you again.
That's all that
So, you've played with a lot of bands, in a lot of situations.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had a guitar put makeup on you?
Yeah. I'm sure somewhere down the line.
So you're telling me
That's
that
a weird
wasn't
one.
the first time?
Probably not the first time.
Oh, God.